Welcome back to Explaining Everything, the channel where we dive into the stories and mysteries behind everyday things. Today's question comes from one of our sharp-eyed viewers, Mason Cool Kid 19. Thanks for the suggestion, Mason. You asked, why do coins have ridges on the edges? At first glance, it might seem like a purely decorative choice, but those ridges have a surprisingly dramatic backstory involving counterfeiters, clever solutions, and, believe it or not, Isaac Newton. So, if you've ever jingled some change in your pocket and wondered about those tiny grooves, stick around as we uncover the hidden history and practical purpose of coin ridges, right here on Explaining Everything. Back in the olden days, coins weren't just metal discs that jingled in your pocket. They were literal chunks of precious metals like gold and silver. Their value wasn't symbolic. It was all about the weight. Enter the clever and somewhat shady characters of the time, coin clippers. These folks figured out they could shave off tiny amounts of metal from the edges of coins. Multiply that by hundreds of coins, and boom, you've got a tidy little pile of stolen silver or gold to melt down and sell. Clipping wasn't just a minor inconvenience, it was a serious problem. Imagine buying a loaf of bread only to find out your coin was more diet than value. It caused distrust in the currency and a headache for anyone trying to do honest business. The solution? Make it blatantly obvious when someone's been shaving off the goods. Enter ridges, a way to say, "Hands off my edges." So, who do we have to thank for this genius fix? None other than Sir Isaac Newton. Yes, the gravity guy. Turns out he wasn't just about apples and falling objects. When Newton became the warden of the Royal Mint in 1696, he turned his big brain toward fighting coin fraud. His idea: add a series of ridges, what the fancy folks call reeding, to the edges of coins. That way, if someone tried to shave off even a sliver, it would be immediately obvious. Newton basically turned coins into the 17th century version of a tamper-proof seal. And let's be honest, if you're trying to outsmart Isaac Newton, you're probably going to lose. Sorry, clippers, but the game was up. Fast forward to today, and ridges are still a thing, even though coins are no longer made of precious metals. Why? Partly because old habits die hard, and partly because ridges are still a solid security feature. They make coins harder to counterfeit and easier to identify by touch, an especially big deal for people with visual impairments. But let's not ignore the obvious. Ridges just look cool. A smooth coin. Boring. A ridged coin? Fancy, practical, and kind of satisfying to fiddle with. It's like the difference between a plain donut and one with sprinkles. Sure, they both get the job done, but one's just objectively better. Now, you might be wondering, why don't all coins have ridges? Great question. Turns out, not all coins are created equal. Higher value coins, like quarters and dimes, get the ridged treatment because they're historically more prone to tampering. Meanwhile, lower value coins like pennies and nickels are smooth-edged because, well, no one's out here clipping pennies. The math doesn't check out. It's like stealing ketchup packets from a fast food joint. You can do it, but why? Ridges have even made their way into pop culture. Think about it. How many spy movies feature someone using a coin's edge to saw through rope or etch a message onto glass? It's probably not realistic, don't try this at home, but it's undeniably cool. Those tiny ridges have become symbols of ingenuity and resourcefulness. Who knew small grooves could have such big energy? Before we wrap up, let's sprinkle in some fun facts for your next trivia night. Did you know that the US quarter has 119 ridges and the dime 118? Imagine being the person who had to count them. Also, ridges aren't exclusive to coins. Some drink cans have ridges around the pull tab for extra grip. Same principle, less glamour. Oh, and in case you're still stuck on Isaac Newton's involvement in all this, yes, the guy who revolutionized physics also revolutionized pocket change. Talk about a resume. So, the next time you find yourself fiddling with a quarter or a dime, take a moment to really appreciate those ridges. They're not just there for show, they're tiny grooves packed with history, ingenuity, and a whole lot of practicality. Each ridge is like a time capsule, a nod to an era when protecting the value of currency was a high-stakes battle against counterfeiters and clippers. They represent a clever solution to an age-old problem, one that combines science, craftsmanship, and a bit of Newtonian genius. So, whether you're paying for your coffee or tossing coins into a fountain, remember, those ridges aren't just grooves. They're the unsung heroes of your pocket change. If this video made you count the ridges on your coins, give this a like and subscribe while you're at it. Also, if you have suggestions for our next video, feel free to share them in the comments below. We'll be sure to give you an acknowledgement for your contribution. Thank you for tuning in, and join us next time here in the channel that answers all the why, what, who, where, and how questions you've always wondered about. Here on Explaining Everything.